you all for joining the Texas State Florist Association on this free webinar. TSFA has posted several resources on tsfa.org that you may find useful, and Ashley's webinar will be archived and available to view tomorrow in case you miss anything she said today. We wish to really thank the Texas Floral Education Underwriters for making all of these free webinars to the industry, not just TSFA members, but to the entire industry available. We're very pleased to welcome Ashley DeFranco. She owns Simplified Social Media, and she's TSFA's social media expert. This session on social media and social distancing covers how COVID-19 has changed the lives of everyone around the world, including their social media habits. I know it's changed mine. I go there often to find out the news. The context of what she's going to talk about today from what's in the news and how it plays out in social media can directly impact your content from day to day and how you're going to post. Please ask questions. You can type them in the comment section as Ashley talks. If any of her points bring a question up in mind, go ahead and type them in so we have them at the end for our Q&A. And Ashley will address as many of those questions at the end as at the conclusion of her presentation. Ashley, we're really looking forward to this webinar as you share this knowledge on the importance of creating the content that keeps us moving forward. Thank you, and please enjoy the webinar.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, TSFA, and thank you guys for joining me for this. Today, we're going to be talking about, as Diana mentioned, social media and social distancing, and just ways to create content that keeps business moving forward without appearing tone deaf. And we'll talk about what that means. And when I was going over everything for what I wanted to talk about today, I know in your industry specifically, some of you may be open for business, some of you may be on pause and getting ready to open. The situation changes from day to day and everyone's situation is different. So what I wanted to give you guys today is just takeaways that you can use and that you should be using regardless of where your business sits right now today. These are actionable things because even if you're not fully operational right now, and will be, you should still be in front of your social media audiences. And in fact, this is a really great opportunity that you have in front of you. You just, there's some tricks, obviously, for managing crisis communication. And so we'll talk a little bit about that today. Where I just wanted to start is talking to you about helpful language during a crisis. And I've got it broken down like some examples of overpromising versus hope. Now, you're not going to be posting these things on social media, but I wanted to draw the attention here because it's a mindset that we need to have when we move forward with planning our content. Trust is so important always on social media. And what happens during crisis and emergency is people typically can lose trust in businesses. It's just one of the trends that we see across the board. However, the reason for that is historically, a lot of times, businesses just don't get their messaging across the right way. They can come across pretty disconnected or because the situation is so different for everyone, it can be hard to navigate the messaging. And so if you get it right and you use hope in your messaging without overpromising, then you really have an opportunity here to build trust in this crisis that can help you with just your authenticity going forward beyond when we all get out of this. So you want to stay away from any content you're creating just overpromising. And you can see some examples here. I won't go through all of them, but saying, don't worry, everything will be fine, versus this might be difficult, but together we will get through it. Just kind of, the language that we're all in this together. Again, it looks different for everybody, but we're all, fighting some sort of struggle because our worlds have been upended and we're having to make it work. For me personally, I was telling Diana, working from home and homeschooling a kindergartner. And, when I'm on these calls, there's a 50-50 chance that he's going to walk in. He won't today because he's not here. He's on a walk. But, it just, we're all in this together. And so bringing that into your language when you're talking to your audience is really important. Another one that I like that I'll just point out here is things will be back to normal soon versus things might look different in the foreseeable future. Let's focus on how we can adapt. And that's really what this time together is really going to be focused on, is how can we adapt? How can we adapt our messaging to be flexible and move as things change from day to day? So how do we start? Social listening. What is social listening? It's the process of monitoring digital conversations to understand what customers are saying about your business and your environment. It helps you understand the why, the where, the how of conversations, as well as what people think. And it can be an invaluable tool during a crisis for creating conversation-worthy content that connects with the people that are viewing it. And in the current climate we're facing, it's really important because, again, Diana mentioned at the beginning of this webinar that she's using social media differently, and she goes there to get a lot of the news and information, and so does everybody. I mean, that's what we're seeing across the board as far as just the amount of time that people are spending online. You definitely want to spend time here listening to what your customers are saying, listening to what the conversation is around COVID-19 and how it affects your businesses, because that helps you plan your messaging accordingly. Questions that you want to ask yourself when you're social listening. How are other similar businesses responding to this emergency, and how are their customers responding to their response? Also, do you need to craft content around your relief efforts or additional policies? You definitely do. All of this, you can look for other examples when you look at other people in your industry, even if they're in a different region. You can see how's what they're doing working, and how are their customers responding. And I think it's very important, and especially as things change so rapidly, I think it's very important to craft content around your relief efforts. And if you are open right now, what are you doing to safeguard? What are you doing to make sure that your employees and everybody that is working and every one of your customers is safe? What are you doing to be mindful of everybody's situation in this climate? And another thing you want to keep in mind, and I know that this has been true for Texas, as we've seen, you might be in a different region from someone else that you're talking to, and they may be in a totally different stage of the crisis. We see that a lot, nationally. You see New York, and then California. They have been impacted on a community level, and a lot, they've been the epicenter. So when you're looking at Texas and you're listening to conversations, well, maybe one region was able to still operate this whole time, just as an example, and you weren't able to. You just want to keep in mind with your messaging that everybody could be in a different stage of the crisis. So we're going to spend a little bit of time here as far as content strategy. When we're looking at strategy for content, what should we include? This is where we're going to get our ideas for exactly what we're going to put out. And the most important thing here, the most important rule whenever you're doing any kind of content development, the number one rule is just going to be genuinely caring. asking yourself, what is the person reading this going through? And that is really important and impactful because, again, it's easy for us to get caught up in what we're going through, and how crazy things are, and not knowing what our business strategy is going to be from one day to the next, and trying to figure out a new business model completely. It can be hard for us as business owners to connect and press pause and say, okay, well, when I'm creating this content, what is the person reading it going through? So that is the number one rule when you're thinking about any kind of content creation. So for the first idea, add a human element to your content when you're creating it. You want to seek a more casual tone. You want to try to find a balance and be more casual and be more personable, and try to fit some enthusiasm into it, because I know that if you've been spending more time online, you've definitely noticed that there can be a lot of negativity. There can be a lot of just kind of dark overall vibe of when you get on Facebook. I mean, for me personally, and I work in this industry. For me personally, I've had to take complete breaks. For my mental health. I'll step away from it altogether for the weekend. I won't look at it because it can be pretty just dark and negative. So when you're thinking about adding a human element to your content, you want to try to be creative and think of ways that you can add enthusiasm in and be a light in this sort of situation. And the more personal the content, the more your followers are going to want to interact with you. And it's the more you're going to stand out, quite frankly. So when you're adopting a casual tone and you're making it personal, people are going to be more prone to interact with you. Another idea for content is offer behind the scenes content. There are a few better ways to humanize your brand and your business than to show the humans who are actually working there. And a lot of people, when I think about this for restaurant workers or anybody who's operating in business right now, there's some risk involved. And I'm just really appreciative of their willingness to be involved, so that I don't have to cook 3 meals a day, all day, every day, and things like that. So if you show your people who are behind the scenes, who are working, it's a great way to humanize and to build a connection in this time of crisis. Another possible idea for content, showcase your favorite people. Now this can be also kind of in line with the people who work for you, but also highlight great customer testimonials or reviews. And you might kind of think, is this the right time to do that? Talk about myself and toot my own horn. But it can be if you frame it in the proper context. So when you're talking about customer testimonials or reviews specifically, you could just highlight it and you can say, this is why we love and miss our customers. Like attach it to the times. Like if you're really missing that interaction with your customers that you always used to have, highlight those stories. Highlight what's great about this industry that provides connection as a whole. I mean, that's what flowers do. That's what this industry does. So highlight those stories that may be from the past or that are current, that it gives you a way to talk about it and showcase your favorite things and your favorite people. The next one, promote a topic that resonates with the times and can actually help people. This specifically is great to do by talk about ways that you are giving back as a business. That's a great way to do this. Show how you're helping people. Talk about ways that you're caring for others. Talk about ways that you are going the extra mile in this to make sure that everybody is safe and that you're doing everything, all the necessary protocol. And if you're not open for business, you can still do these things too. Talk about the ways you're caring for others, and also find ways to say thank you. Talk about the people that you're thankful for in all of this, who have helped your business or who keep you going. These are great ways to kind of promote the topic and show how you're helping people in this time of crisis. The next, acknowledge the current situation. I feel like we kind of have to do that. What we see across the board is businesses that go on as if business as usual. You lose a huge element of trust and authenticity there. Even if, in a perfect world, your business wasn't really affected. Let's say you're actually, a pizza delivery place. And so they were already set up to this. This was their business model. Everything is good to go. The businesses that are thriving, and we looked at this in marketing and research, the restaurants that are thriving are actually like the ones that are doing things differently, that are providing new delivery services, that are going outside of the box and acknowledging the situation. And we're actually seeing a dip in delivery services like pizza places, who are just kind of continuing as a business as usual strategy and not really acknowledging that anything has changed, because in their business model, it hasn't. So it's really important for building trust to acknowledge the current situation that we're in. And it also builds a connection with your community, because you're saying, again, we're all in this together. We're taking this a day at a time, just like you. We're just like you. Another point is to ask yourself always, would this topic be considered insensitive at this time? We always should kind of check in with our content in that way. But in times of crisis, and certainly during COVID, we have to ask that question: is this content going to be considered insensitive? And not just insensitive to, it's another delicate situation, because as I mentioned before, I have clients in New York and I have clients in California. So they're in completely different environments. So for, let's say a restaurant client in New York City who's in the middle of it, probably on their page, we're not going to be creating content that's a meme, a joking about, something in this situation. Some people are doing that, but you have to consider your audience. You have to also consider location. And again, it could be different for everybody in Texas. So you have to think beyond your audience, and just, can this overall in this time be considered insensitive to somebody? Another easy content option: dig into your archives and find something that's worth sort of updating and reposting. So you don't want to recycle it and use the same comment or the same exact post, but find something that did really well in the past and find a way that you can model that post for the current situation. Or, just saying, in the days before social distancing, showing, for example, a group all together with something fun that your business did, just sharing memories in that way and reposting them, and choose posts that did really well before and find a way to frame them into the current situation so that you can post them again. This one is pretty important as far as leveraging holidays and micro holidays. Mother's Day is coming up. Nurses Day, I believe, is that same week. And we can just use these as examples, but whether you're open or you're not, this is a great time to say thank you. And to talk about, if you are open, to talk about flowers as a way to say thank you to frankly, for example, the heroes, the nurses, and to all of the mothers now who are, you know, working from home and homeschooling. They're just, you know, trying to just make it work the best that we all can. This is a really poignant time to really bring a Mother's Day promotion that's different than what you've done before, and an opportunity to really connect with your audience in that way. And whether you're doing deliveries on Mother's Day or not, I think that it is really good. You could even, if you're not doing Mother's Day, if you're not open, or if you're just now opening and you have the time, you could even spend the entire week highlighting each post that week, highlighting mothers. You could really stretch it out, because I think right now with anybody in healthcare and Mother's Day, I think this year is going to be just a really poignant holiday for sure. So this is stuff that really you want to be doing, whether you're operating or not. I feel like I should ask a question about that, Diana.
Yes.
So is everyone going to be operational by Mother's Day, or is that still?
It looks like the governor has allowed delivery for everyone April 24th, which is today.
Okay.
I don't think people will be allowed to enter stores of any kind, but
Okay.
it's called, he's done a retail to go. Now I need to tell, Ashley, I need to tell everybody, for some reason it says our meeting time remaining is only 4 minutes, and we have, TSFA has unextended meeting or extended meeting time. That shouldn't be. So something is going on behind Zoom that we're trying to fix.
Oh.
If we get cut off, Amanda will send you a new login for everyone, because we still have probably 15 more minutes to go at least, right?
My clock, it says 11 minutes. Yeah.
11.
We have 11 more minutes. So yeah. So we are actually close to opening it up for questions.
Okay, well, it says 3 minutes, and I don't know if it's going to cut us off or not, so I want everyone to know that. I'm very sorry if it does, but we'll send everything to log back in on. It'll just take a second.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, so I asked that question just to kind of get a gauge on how heavily into Mother's Day promotion you can get right now. And if you're going to be retail to go, then I would definitely start promoting Mother's Day, but it has to have a different tone to it. This is an opportunity to really shine and to build connection with your audience. It can't be, or it shouldn't be, the same type of Mother's Day promotion, because it's a fine line, right? It's a fine line between commercialism. People are very sensitive to that right now. So I just want to make sure that when you're coming into your Mother's Day promotions, that you are definitely going to be thinking about ways to connect this go round, because of the crisis that we're all in. And really, before we open it up to questions, this is the last thing that I really had. What's next? Well, we have no idea. You know, we really don't. We don't know how this is going to affect our businesses further out. I mean, will this change the dynamic of how we work, how we do? Who knows? You know, we can't really look in a crystal ball and say that. So really, the message is, marketing in a time of social distancing, you have to stay nimble and patient and flexible, and you have to be able to adapt. And that's really the word that I feel like I'm using the most when I'm talking to clients, and when we're looking at marketing trends and businesses that are thriving and doing well. It's how well they're able to adapt in this current environment. So, you know, I was telling Diana at the beginning of the call, I of course I like to have my content scheduled. I like to have it planned. I'm very organized when I'm working with clients, and we have a calendar, and it's very strategic and what goes where. that's kind of gone out the window in this season because everything has changed from day to day. So we have to be flexible. We have to be flexible. We have to be doing social listening and hearing what the conversation is around COVID-19 and how it's changing. And we have to put our messaging in line with that. So we can open it up for questions. Should we have one person doing the social media or social media posting, or several? The answer to that is, I always think it's better if you can have one person doing it. However, it should be a collaboration of ideas. That's usually how it works the best, because one person doing it, they can kind of manage when something's going out, when they're going to post, and they kind of are at the command of it. However, a shared, ideas and concepts, and maybe when you have your meetings or whatever, you're talking about it with your employees, brainstorming ideas is a really great idea, but one person really should probably execute it. I can't hear you, Amanda.
Yeah, that makes sense. Can you hear me now, Ashley?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. I did remember another question that came up. It was from a wedding specialist, and it doesn't look like she's joined the call back yet, but she said this is extremely good information, and she asked, how do you, with so many brides canceling, how do you inspire people? How do you get that inspiration message across?
Give them hope. I mean, that's the number one thing. I think you find ways to give hope. And especially as, a bride specialist, this is super stressful for brides, and it's just the industry as a whole. So you find ways to really loop hope into your messaging. And just build the connection that you're there for them. And it really is an opportunity to build more of a connection than you might have even had before. Mm-hmm. So I just think that's the number one word I would use, is just to put hope into your messaging and find ways to do that.
Okay. Amanda, do you remember any other questions that came through?
Jimmy had one. He says, do we need a waiver or official permission from an employee that we highlight?
For doing social media?
Yeah.
You can, and we kind of, it depends on how extensive you want to get, what they're allowed to post. I mean, I have clients that ask for a waiver, and they get as specific as if they're going to be the face, if they're going to be putting themselves out there. For example, I post on, I create content and post on TSFA's behalf, but I'm not a face in their social media. So if you have someone that's an actual face, I have clients who want the waiver to go as far as saying that what they post on their own social media channels has to also be appropriate if they're going to be the face of our business. And if it's somebody who's just posting content that's approved by you, then I think it's okay. You could probably even get away with not, if you're approving the content, then a waiver isn't super necessary. So it depends on how much eyes you're going to have on it. If you want them to have free reign, I would suggest some sort of waiver that has some boundaries in it, or some kind of guidelines.
And so as a wholesaler, I guess we just need to be more cautious on who we highlight. And so it's good, or it's recommended that we do get permission from those people that we highlight, and that it's not conflicting with anything else, and it doesn't offend.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry, I misunderstood the question. So you're talking about who, like a waiver for like companies you include, not necessarily employees?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, that is not necessary as long as if it's just other companies that you're going to be including, typically they're happy to have you promoting their business on your social media channels. Don't really see anymore. I think in the early days of social media, you had this sense of people being very proprietary over it. And now people are happy if you want to share their stuff on a platform. So I don't really see that being an issue as much anymore.
I think if you look at Jimmy's screen, he has beautiful scenery in the background. So he's promoting himself and his business without even saying a word. I think that's beautiful.
You know what's funny about that? Because the whole age of Zoom is having a background behind you, whether you're on a beach or something like that, you put a fake background in. And I thought about that too, Jimmy. I was like, wow, he doesn't even need a fake background. He's got a good one already.
Yeah.
Jimmy, did you have any other questions? Your mic is unmuted if you wanted to talk.
Yeah, so the first question, I'm not sure if it made sense, but if we highlight an employee doing a task in the office or in the greenhouse, do we need permission from them to post their image or them working in the greenhouse?
No.
Okay.
Definitely.
The second question was, we have large customers. Is it risky or insensitive to highlight one big customer and not highlight another one? Are they get offended, or they get upset, or I'm not sure what the climate is with larger companies and how they view that?
Well, it's really knowing if you just promote one consistently, then someone else might get offended. But if you post one here and then let's say, next month you post another one and they see that it's being spread out, it's not going to be an issue, because again, they want to have the promotion, and that's something that you should do, because that's something you want your audience to know, that you're working with these people. So the more people you can promote like that, the better. That's a way that you build influence yourself. So I always think, the political aspect kind of has to take a back seat, because the whole reason we're doing social media marketing is to market and to grow our business. And who you do work for and who your clients are is one of the things that you absolutely should highlight.
Would you address the difference in posting to an audience on Facebook versus Instagram versus Twitter, or let's just use Instagram and Facebook right now? How do you take that same message, but from what I understand, it needs to be changed because there's different audiences on Instagram and Facebook. Could you highlight that a little more?
Yes. And it should be different. Facebook is more, it's a different demographic. They don't like to hear from businesses all the time. On Facebook, you're really restricted. So when you're posting, not everyone sees your content. You are much less restricted on Instagram because the environment there is it's more personal. So Facebook, let's say you may have share a post of something, and it may just have standard verbiage in the commentary. You want it to be authentic. You want it to be personal. When you go over to Instagram, you want to be thinking that you're speaking to a little bit younger of an audience that would want you to be even more personal. And you have a little more freedom on Instagram, whereas Facebook allows you to post in stories. It's not really worth your time because they don't get a lot of views. So you can post one Facebook post and that's fine. But on Instagram, you have the freedom to have yourself in video on Instagram stories and be showing more of a day-to-day and be showing more of your personality. And a lot more people are going to see it. And in fact, there's been an uptick since this all has happened in people seeing Instagram stories, because a lot more people are using it, and you're not, there's algorithms on Facebook that that really dictate who's going to see what when you post. On Instagram, you don't have that. And Instagram, it's, again, you can post a live video of what you're doing and everybody that follows you is going to see it. A lot more people are going to see it. So there's been an uptick in people using it during COVID. Instagram is much more visual. So whatever you put in your feed versus stories, whatever's in your feed needs to be visually beautiful. I mean, that's the expectation. It's visually appealing. It can't be a grainy photograph or something that's not really, if you want to post something that's a little bit grainy and not the best image quality, post it in your stories and you can put, text on it or whatever to make it, a little more like fresh and fun, but it's not meant to be in your feed. So I think Instagram is just a place that's a lot more fun. So you can have more fun with your messaging, and Facebook is more going to be just straightforward, a post with your copy, don't inundate your audience, that kind of thing. Does that answer?
It does. Is Twitter even relevant right now?
Well, for news, for news, it's hugely relevant, but as far, and we are seeing growth on Twitter for the first time in probably 2 years, but it's growth, people going there to get their news. So, and it's a lot more work. This is what I tell my clients. To be seen on Twitter once per day, you have to post at least 5 times a day. So Twitter, for the work it takes versus the reward you're going to get back from it, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But it's a great place to go for you to do social listening that we talked about, because you can type in hashtags, floral industry. You can type in whatever hashtags you want in the search bar, and you can immediately just get a microfeed. And it's very easy to do social listening. You can just get a snapshot of exactly how the industry is talking about COVID or what people are saying. So it's a great place for that too.
And hashtags are really important because you get your message across in a short message and with a nice big display of a nice beautiful image, that kind of a picture that speaks for itself in a sense for Instagram. And
for Instagram, definitely.
Yeah. And I agree. Can you go further into hashtags and who all it reaches out to, and what's the best way to come up with a good creative hashtag? Well,
you don't want the most important thing with hashtags on Instagram. They're not relevant on Facebook. They don't have the same power. The purpose of a hashtag is it's how people find you. It's a way to get visibility on your post. And again, because the algorithms and the way search works on Facebook, it's not relevant. And people who are in a younger demographic that considers themselves social media savvy, let's say the people in their late 20s and 30s, they look at that as not being social media savvy if you use hashtags on Facebook. So the purpose for them first and foremost is to get your business seen. So if you wanted to develop your own hashtag, you can, but where you're going to be better off spending your time is looking for the hashtags that are most used in your industry, and using those in your post, because that's how you're going to get seen. The most used hashtags are the ones that everyone's looking at in your industry. Everyone is using those hashtags. So that's how you're going to come up in search. And you can use as many, you can use as many as you want.
Thank you, Ashley. You've been very helpful today. We appreciate your time.
Oh, yeah.
Are there any other comments you'd like to share? If not, I would like to tell each of you that Ashley does a great job, and she is featured almost every month in the Texas in Bloom magazine as a member you receive. And we will send you her slides along with her contact information if you'd like to talk with Ashley about anything further.
Yeah, if you have any questions or anything, just have my contact information and you can email and ask, because again, something could change tomorrow and maybe strategy looks a little different and questions may come up.
They will, and we never expected this strategy, but we are appreciative of Ashley for being there for us to assist us in our social media strategy. So thank you, and we will probably not have a webinar next week because it's Mother's Day preparation. So our next webinar will be with Stacy Carlton, which is exciting, and it will probably be the Friday following Mother's Day. But we'll let you know as soon as we have her scheduled. Thank you, everyone, and we wish you a healthy, safe weekend.
Yes. Thank you guys for having me. Bye.
Thank you, Ashley. You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.